So I don't tend to talk about being autistic very often. In fact, even when I talk about autism, I don't talk about being autistic. Because as soon as you do, you get painted with a specific brush. You get looked at in a specific way. When I say something intelligent, I don't want it to be, oh, look at Rain Man count matches. I want it to be, look, there's a good idea. Let's understand it, or let's disregard it. But I want it to be based on the idea, not on the diagnosis. But here's the thing. I don't consider autism to be a defect. I consider it to be a difference, and a valuable one at that. So why don't I like talking about being autistic? First off, it doesn't make things better. It's painful, and it actually decreases communication. It's painful because I've got a past that is problematic based on what people didn't understand and still don't understand about autism. It decreases communication because people still interpret the way that they understand the world rather than the way the world is. And that's because the world is not one thing. The world is complicated. And the brain does not like complicated. The brain likes simple and straightforward. It likes an answer rather than a question. So, when we talk about what is a painful past, so first off, even now I tell people I'm autistic and they're like, no, you're not. You've got this verbal, you've got this ability, you do these things, and they can't see that I am autistic. I have learned to look like others to the point people don't see how different I am. And the differences they do see, they dismiss as being a personal problem rather than an underlying way of being. So, even when I've worked with other clinicians who don't know some of my history, they're like, how do you know you're autistic? Where does this come from? How do you... So, when I was young, I had severe challenges with learning. And people immediately assumed that there was a mental problem. So I was in the retarded kids class for my first several years of schooling. And how did I know we knew we were in the retarded kids class. We had a bungalow on the playground. We didn't have lunch. We didn't have recess. We didn't have anything with the other kids in school. We had our own time and our own space. And we knew that we were in the retarded kids class in the bungalow, on the playground, away from all the other kids. Yes, this was real. And we understood it at the time. Now, this happened all the way up until 5th grade when they mainstreamed me. I don't know if it was because they changed or because they didn't have room to keep me isolated as a retarded kid. In 6th grade, they finally tested me. And they wanted to find out where my learning disability was. Where was I mentally deficient? I pegged out all their tests. Now, here's an interesting thing for you. They never told me. I didn't get told about those results until I was getting ready to go to college at 21. I thought I was stupid. I thought this until my mid-20s. I held on to this, and so I had many speech problems. I had many socialization problems. I thought I was too stupid to do a lot of this. Nobody gave me the information to work with to say, hey, Dave, this is not a mental problem. This is something else. But when they figured out that I was mentally capable, what did they do? Did they advance me in school? No. They sent me to a psychologist to figure out where my mental problem was. And here's the kicker. Here's one of the wonderful things. The psychologist, who I can remember very, very little about, thought this was all a trauma and stress issue. I remember him asking my mother to go ahead and rub my belly and see where the tension was in my body. 45 years old, they asked me to describe, I'm doing a counseling training, and they're asking me to describe one of the worst experiences of my life. This was what I picked to describe. Now, here's the thing. I didn't know I was autistic. I was just a child who was having trouble fitting in. I didn't do well on their schooling. I didn't do well on their social activities. I had speech problems all the way up through 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. And because of my speech problems, because of my lack of success in school, they determined that I had mental deficiencies. And when they went to work on the mental deficiencies, they're having somebody touch me and do this, which is hugely uncomfortable for me, to try to make me better. Why don't I talk about autism? They don't understand what it is. They dismiss my thoughts, feelings, and ideas because they don't get it. And when they do try to be helpful, they do things that actually hurt me more. If you want me to be more clear about my experiences, rather than get me to a point where I explain to a point where you're comfortable understanding, if you want to know about me, get to a place mentally, emotionally, and physically where you can come and understand me, rather than getting me to a place where I can explain what you're comfortable with in a way that makes you feel okay. But that is not the world we live in. I accept this. And so I deal with the world the way I find it. And I will try to share my wisdom with you in a way that doesn't make you too uncomfortable, because I want you to be able to hear it. But I don't want you to hear what I have to say because I'm autistic. Because I'm autistic, I have insights and ideas that you won't have. Because I understand and connect with the world differently. I want you to share in the wisdom that I have to give. But you won't do it if you're listening because I'm autistic. You will only hear if you're listening because you want to understand more about existence.